I confronted my barber today, and the result of this confrontation was that I basically started to question my life and approach towards assumptions and approach towards interacting with people. You see, like I arrived at my barber shop today, and usually when I go to the barbers, I'm like really looking forward to it because I'm getting a haircut, and I love and really enjoy getting a haircut. But today was a little different. Today I arrived at the place, and the first thing I said to him was, "Hey man," like he dabbed me up like he always does. And mind you, this barber is only like 15, 16 years old, so he's basically a kid, right? He's a kid who cuts out of his garage. He's hustling all the time. I respect that a lot. But I arrived at the place and he dabbed me up and I go, "Hey man, what was all that about yesterday?" And what I'm talking about, like I'll actually show you what happened, is basically on Friday, I messaged him. I was like, "Hey man, are you available tonight or tomorrow for a haircut?" Actually, tomorrow, not tonight. And he replied, he was like, "Sorry bro, I'm not cutting hair today or tomorrow. I have an event." I was like, "You know what? It's all good, bro. It's all good." But then I told him, "Hey man, I definitely need a cut before Friday. And I'll let you know when I'm available and when I can make it." And the reason I needed a haircut is because I'm going on a trip with my friends. And before getting this haircut, which I've gotten now, if you can't tell, I looked absolutely horrendous. I looked like a homeless guy that hadn't basically groomed himself for like years, right? So I was looking in a very awful state. And at the same time, I'm going on this trip with my friends, so I want to look good for it. And we're leaving Friday night. And all Friday I'm working, so I'm not going to have time to get a haircut on Friday. So I need it before Friday. And usually my barber's always onto these things, and I can book it in easily. The reason I got upset is because I was like, "Hey, need a cut," and he was like, "Hey man, tomorrow, what time would you like to do?" And I'm like, "Oh, sick, this is great." And I was like, "Hey man, like 2:30 p.m. does that work for you?" And he goes, "Can you do any earlier?" Right there. And I was like, "Does 12 p.m. work?" However, at this point in time, he just stopped replying to me. So later, like the following day, so this is text message yesterday. Yesterday was the day that we were talking about me getting a cut. I messaged him at 9 a.m. to be like, "Hey man, is the thing at 12 that you said you'd cut my hair, is that still going ahead?" And he didn't reply. I was like, "Okay, cool." At about 11:40, I messaged him again. I was like, "Hey, Brody, 12 o'clock. Am I getting a cut? Can you let me know? Can you like tell me it's okay if I'm not getting a cut? But I'd like to know because I'd have to leave now." And then I messaged him late last night at about 8 p.m. and I was like, "Hey man, I absolutely need a haircut before Friday. If it's all good, like it's all good if you can't do it, just let me know. Stop ghosting me, my man." That happened. He was just like, "Hey, bro, my bad. A lot happened today. I can get you in on Thursday." And I went today to the shop, to his house, in his garage, and I got the haircut. And that is when I confronted him. I was like, "Hey man, what was yesterday about?" And the first thing he said to me is, "Man, yesterday was really tough for me." And I was like, instantly, as he said that, I could tell the emotion in his voice. I instantly had like a little like half heart drop. Like my heart dropped from where my heart is supposed to be at to like halfway to the ground. Not fully to the ground yet, halfway to the ground. And he goes, "Yesterday was quite hard for me because one of my older brother's best friends got into a car accident." And at this point, my heart has now fully fallen to the floor. I felt awful because I realized like I was making this entire situation about me and the fact that he hadn't got back to me, and because I wanted to get my haircut before I go on to the trip, and I started just like assuming things. Like I started assuming the fact that like, hey, this hairdresser, he's young, so most likely he's just like ghosting me, like he isn't prepared, like this is not how you treat client relationships. And the reason all these thoughts came into my head is because if I ghosted a client, or if a client that I work with ghosted me at a very professional level, working with usually business owners and stuff, it's so frowned upon. So I took that expectation from my professional life and sort of put it in my personal life without really understanding the context of the situation. The context is the fact that like this was a 15, 16-year-old old kid, barber, and I was basically speechless. I was like, look at me making all these assumptions about him not getting back to me and all this sort of stuff, when in reality, like what had happened and the reason for why he wasn't able to get back to me was far more important than my haircut. It was far more important than like honestly any reason that I could have had to be mad at the fact that I'm not getting a haircut. Like, I rather, like, even me looking homeless on the trip wasn't, like, didn't even, it paled in comparison to the day that he had had, basically going and visiting his brother's friend who had been in a car accident. The reason I'm telling you this is this sort of little incident sort of reminded me uh, on checking myself and reflecting on the way that I make assumptions about people and about circumstances and about situations. Having lived like 20 years of my life up till this point, and especially in the last few years where I've been working, 60 hours a week, working with business owners, traveling around the world, teaching people learning skills, and really like doing a lot of stuff, I've just generally realized that most times the assumptions we humans tend to create are probably negative. They're probably not true. And even like this is both personal and professional life. Like usually there is usually like a very, very logical or make sense explanation to why things are happening, why someone ghosted you, why all this stuff is happening. However, we just seem to think of everything as as the worst, when that simply isn't the case. So from now on onwards, I'm going to be trying to check in with myself every single day to make sure that I'm not making these assumptions negatively about people, about circumstances, about my family, because I sort of tend to do this as well. Like, well, I don't do this as much as I used to, but say if like something is broken in the house, the first assumption is my little brother did it. Why? Because he's my little brother. But just like generally, leaving and stop and like sort of stopping myself from making all these assumptions about people and about things is something that I've sort of learned from this situation, and I'll be taking forwards. Cool. Fun fact, it is about 6:05 p.m. I'm super tired, and I'm going to be going to bed in like 6:30 p.m. To get like a longer night's sleep. And I was going to go, but I realized that I need to record 5 videos a week for this year, so I recorded this one. Cool. I'll see you in the next one.